Okay, so today the topic is to give you some insights about Hermes and LVMH business models and some strategic drivers. So I choose to speak about Hermes and LVMH because they are two key players in this industry. And as you will see, they have different business models. They have different structure, but they have some common goals and strategic drivers. So as Ekaterina said, I'm program director for the MSc Fashion Design Luxury Management. So I will be very happy to welcome you in September for those who have been accepted yet. For the others, please rush to apply, and I hope you can enjoy this masterclass. And as Ekaterina said, feel free to ask me as many questions as you wish, or to the admission team as well. So you can follow me on LinkedIn. I indeed share lots of articles I find interesting about this industry. I also share internship offers or job offers or any links I find important for my students. You can follow me on Instagram as well, and you will see what we do during study trips, for example, or exhibitions we go to, different activities we organize, and I'm also on Twitter. So without further ado, the agenda for today is to talk about Hermes and LVMH. So I will start with talking a little bit about Hermes in a nutshell. Hermes Paris history. I will give you some key financial figures. It's always important to understand the numbers to have some idea of the size of a company and how well they are performing. So I will give you some key consolidated data, and we'll move on to business model and strategic drivers. I will do the same for LVMH, so you have an idea of these two key players and how they differ, or also what are the common strategic drivers. And we will conclude with some key takeaways that you can remember. So let's start with some key figures. So as you know, all industries have been hit by COVID, and in 2020, LVMH revenue amounted to 44.6 billion euros, with a net profit of 4.7 billion euros, which gives what we call a return on sales, net profit divided by revenues, of 11%. So this performance was negatively impacted by COVID-20, as many stores were closed during lockdowns in different parts of the world, and production was sometimes halted. Nevertheless, the company very rapidly recovered, and in 21 they had the best ever year, so in the whole history of LVMH, reaching a turnover of 64 billion euros, okay, which is an increase of 44% compared to the previous year. And the net profit jumped to 12 billion. So that leads to a return on sales of 19%. Some of you may not be familiar with numbers, but I can tell you this is a very good performance. And just to give you an idea of the size, LVMH is the number one at worldwide level in the luxury industry. So they had 150,000 employees, more or less, in 2020. And in 2021, it increased to 175,000. So it gives you an idea also about the size of the group and the fact it's growing. It's a group that is hiring a lot. So for you, it's great also to know they are very, well, there are lots of possibilities to be hired in such a group. Hermes is much smaller. So they reached 6.3 billion euros in 2020 with 16,000 people, more or less. But Hermes has the highest profitability in this industry. So out of all players, you also know Kering, L'Oréal, so Hermes, LVMH, Richemont. Hermes is the one with the best financial performance, with a return on sales of 22%. And in 2021, it was even better, reaching 27%. The level of revenues almost reached 9 billion, a number that should have been reached in 2024. So they are already 3 years ahead of the forecast, and with 2.4 billion euros revenue. So that was just to give you an idea. One group is about 64 billion euros, the other one 9. So LVMH is more or less 6 to 7 times bigger than Hermes, but they are both key players in this industry. So let's start with Hermes. Hermes is a family-run business. It was created in 1837, so more than 185 years ago, representing the French savoir-faire, the craftsmanship, and the excellence at worldwide level. It is what we call a heritage brand. So heritage is absolutely fundamental at Hermes, and they are striving to ensure transmission of skills, so from the craftsman people, from the artisan, but also in a sustainable manner. Hermes is organized within 7 segments. Probably you know the leather goods and saddlery. They are very famous for the Birkin bag or Kelly bag, but you also probably know or have bought yourself or seen silk and textiles. For example, their silk scarves. They also have a ready-to-wear and accessories segment, perfumes, watches, other products like tableware, for example, and other Hermes sectors. So they have furniture, they have high jewelry. So they also have different sectors which are encompassed in this category. As I said, so Hermes was created in 1837. Initially, it was a harness maker. So Thierry Hermes set up the business. In 1880, his son transferred the family business to the now famous address called the 24 Faubourg Saint-Honoré. So if you come to Paris, you definitely have to visit the 24 Faubourg Saint-Honoré. And this is a picture I have taken of one of their window display. Just to let you know, Hermes puts lots of emphasis on showing the really nicest window display. And it's really part of the experience when you go to any Hermes store, but in particular to the 24 Faubourg Saint-Honoré, which is the iconic store in Paris. And for example, they put the curtains down when they change the window display, and then they just open it little by little. It's like a ceremony, and you have people outside watching the new window display. It's always a real pleasure to see those window displays. So in 1918, the founder's grandson, Émile Hermès, launched a line of fine leather, saddle stitched. So they have the famous saddle stitch techniques. So for goods and luggage, and the Hermès style was born. In 1950s, Émile Hermès' son-in-law continued to diversify. So this is when it switched from only a harness maker and some luggage to jewelry, watches, diaries, silk scarves, and more. Since 1978, you have the 5th and 6th generation members. So as I said, it's a family-run business. It has been run by the family since its creation. They expanded the brand into new sectors, and they established a global network of Hermes stores. In 2006, the management passed to Patrick Thomas and the artistic directorship to Pierre-Alexis Dumas, who is still creative director of Hermes today. In 2014, Axel Dumas a sixth-generation family member, was appointed executive chairman, and he is sole in charge of the house. And he is still today the chairman of the house. As mentioned in the first slides with the key numbers, Hermes employs more than 17,000 people at worldwide level, with only 303 exclusive stores. So they only have 300 stores at worldwide level. They are very, very exclusive, and each store is decorated, built by the same architectural design agency, and with always all the codes of Hermes, which could be sometimes different. Here on the picture, you can see a photo of the Hermes Rue de Sèvres, which is in Paris as well. And this one is completely different from the historic store of Le 24 Faubourg Saint-Honoré. This one, I don't know if you can see stairs, has been built in the former swimming pool of the Lutetia Hotel, which was a very, very famous hotel in Paris. And you still have the mosaic in the ground, but this one has lots of light, and very also the hood that is used is very light colors, and it's completely different. So each time they create a very specific universe, which is highly recognizable, and it really represents all the key elements of the DNA of the brand. Going back to some key financial figures, just to give you some more insight, Hermes, so he's organized by segment, as I said before, but within those segments, they have different métiers, what they call métier. Métier in French means, work. So within those different métiers, you have watches, you have other products. Leather goods and saddlery remains the main métier. It represents 46% of total revenue in 2021. The year before, it represented 50%. So it has slightly decreased in proportion because other métiers have increased their revenue. So you have the other sectors I mentioned before, the ready-to-wear and accessories, the silks and textiles, and perfume and beauty. So leather goods and saddlery remain the key métier, as well as ready-to-wear and accessories. But then you have other Hermes sectors which are booming. In terms of geographical area, it has a quite balanced portfolio, being present in Europe. Excluding France, it represents 15% of the revenues, and France itself is 9%. So if you combine both, it's 24% for Europe. Americas represent 16% in 2021, and Asia Pacific, excluding Japan, is the most important sector, geographic sector, with 47%. So this was really due to COVID. During COVID, because travels were stopped, and lots of local, of Chinese people had, in particular in China, had to buy locally, and they are really very much into Hermes products. So the percentage of sales is extremely high in Asia Pacific and mainland China in particular. This is true for Hermes, but this is true for all luxury houses, Kering, Richemont, LVMH, as we will see later on. Japan remains a very important territory as well, with 11%, which represent even more than France. Very quickly, just to show you the growth. So the revenue increased from 2019 to 2021. In 2020, we said there was a dip due to COVID, but Hermes was less impacted than its competitors, with only a drop by 7%, whereas the average in the market was minus 30%. So Hermes had always performed very, very well, thanks to its timeless products, very well balanced portfolio by métier, and from the geographical locations as well. As I said before, they are top of the class in terms of profitability, in terms of financial performance. Now, if we take a look at the business model and the strategic drivers, we can classify it. Well, we can list five key elements. First, the product diversification, which can be illustrated by the 50,000 products they offer. Hermes has a huge range of products. They have some timeless, iconic products, but they always reinvent new ones, or they change, they modernize, they add some details. So offering a very, very wide range of products, which limits the dependence, but at the same time preserves the brand equity. Second key element, the control over development, production, and distribution. So it's the full integration of the whole chain. So they develop themselves, they create their products, and they manufacture them, and then they distribute. To give you an example, one of the latest métier release was about the lipstick and the beauty product. And in March 2020, they launched their Hermes lipstick. Some of you may have heard about it. It was not a good timing, as many would say. During COVID, lipstick sales dropped drastically. No one was wearing lipstick, they were wearing masks, or they were at home and they were not. But Hermes, they just wanted to create a very beautiful object in a nice case with its specific craftsmanship, colors, etc. And they launched it during COVID in 2020, in March 2020. At least in France, it was the lockdown period. And it was sold out in a couple of days. So compared to their competitors, this was a real success. But they have worked on it for years before, just to find the perfect combination, as I said, of case, color, texture, etc. So they offer superior quality, and they put lots of emphasis on craftsmanship, human cultural capital, and at the same time, I mentioned that before, they have their own exclusive stores. So they do not use wholesalers. You won't find Hermes products at Galeries Lafayette, for example, or at Saks Fifth Avenue, or any other places. They have their own exclusive stores. They also have, third point, a unique brand strategy. So they have Hermes, and that's all. Okay, they have another one, which is Saint Louis for the crystal, but almost a unique brand strategy. So this is what we call organic growth. So they are not active into what we call mergers and acquisition. They just develop their own brand. They create new products. I mentioned the example of lipstick, but then now you have foundations and different other beauty products. But so they grow by organic growth, internal growth. And their motto is really understated elegance, creativity, and inimitable service. They are organized by métier, fourth point. We mentioned that already. To illustrate that and to show you the importance of their workshop, 78% of objects are made in France. 58% of objects are made in their in-house and exclusive workshop. And last but not least, they put lots of emphasis on a sustainable craftsmanship model. And so all the company is organized around human values, choice of materials, top quality, focus on people, employees, and producing long-lasting objects. So if we sit in a different presentation, they have full control, as I said, of the whole value chain from sourcing to production, distribution, innovation, and of course, HR policies. So they are what we call vertically integrated to ensure a quality on all of their products. So quality checking the skins, for example, they use for their leather products. Also, they have purchased a crocodile farm, for example, to make sure crocodiles are properly taken care of. They also have invested in a silk producer to secure the supply of silk with the top quality of the silk. And as I said, they produce around 50,000 products, 78% of which are made in France. And they use some selected subcontractors. Maybe you are wondering where are the other products produced? Well, for watches, they are produced in Switzerland. Why? Because the expertise of watches is in Switzerland. You all know that Switzerland is famous for its watchmaking industry. Shoes are produced in Italy because Italian craftsmen are also really specialized in shoes, and so the top quality comes from there. Then they can have some objects which are in lacquer, for example, in some parts of Vietnam. So they always choose where the expertise is located. Distribution, I mentioned that before, only 300 stores, exclusive stores, but they also have an online presence. Now they are operating in 29 countries. So you can go to the hermes.com website and you could see where they are selling. Innovation, so I mentioned before, they have timeless creation, but they also innovate a lot. So one example is the collaboration between Apple and Hermes, where you have the Apple Watch and the Hermes band wrist. Okay, and they changed the different band wrist you can buy. They made some new updates, etc. Also, something interesting, Hermes chooses what we call a theme of the year. So a theme of the year, they define a theme. It could be dreams, it could be lightness, it could be games, and lots of products are inspired by this theme. So it could be a scarf with different drawings linked to the theme. Sorry, it could be different objects, and that's something very original. And the theme is extremely confidential. It's chosen 2 years in advance. Only a few people are informed about this theme, and all the creation, the innovation, the development will include this. HR policies, I insisted, human values are absolutely key at Hermes. So they invest heavily in in-house trainings to train craftsman people. So in order to be able to make a perfect Birkin bag or Kelly bag, but they also have lots of partnerships with schools. It could be engineer schools, it could be art school, it could be all types of schools. And even at GEM, we are lucky to have some master classes or conferences given by people from Hermes. They also come to our fair to provide internship offers. And we have alumni who work there and are also participating in 2 different events. Now let's talk about LVMH. So LVMH, as I said before, number 1 worldwide in the luxury industry. It was formed in 1987. So much later than Hermès, by the merger of Louis Vuitton, LV stands for Louis Vuitton, and MH, Moet Hennessy. As of today, there are 75 maisons in total at LVMH. The most famous are Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, Dior, Fendi, Tag Heuer, Celine, Loro Piana, Berluti, Sephora, Remora, and so on. And you will see the list in the next slides. So if you think about Hermès mono brand, okay, almost only one maison, I would say, and LVMH 75. So here, this is also why LVMH is completely unique, because LVMH is the only group in the world in this sector that covers the 5 main businesses of the luxury sector. They have fashion and leather goods, they have wine and spirits, they have perfume and cosmetics, jewelry and watches, and selective retailing. They also have another category called others, in which they have newspapers, luxury, hospitality, but the 5 main are the one listed here. In 2021, among the 75 maisons, 31 are older than 100 years old, are over 100 years old. And they have many more stores than Hermès. Of course, they are bigger, but if you see that Hermès has 300 stores for about 9 billion euros turnover, whereas LVMH, they have 5,500 stores, more or less, for 64 billion euros. Okay, so they have many more. They operate in 80 countries, and they have 175,000 plus employees at worldwide level. So LVMH was born in 1987. It comes from the merger between Louis Vuitton and Moet Hennessy. This is why you have LV from Louis Vuitton, MH from Moet Hennessy. But the roots stretch back to the 18th century Champagne, when Claude Moet decided to build on Dom Pérignon. Some of you may know this famous champagne called Dom Pérignon. And to the 19th century with Louis Vuitton, who was a craftsman trunk maker who invented the modern luggage. On the picture here, you see the Louis Vuitton Maison Danière, where we had the chance to go during our study trip to Paris. So I took my FDLM students to Paris for their week study trip. And we had the great opportunity to visit the Louis Vuitton Maison Danière, which is the cradle of Louis Vuitton, where Louis Vuitton himself lived for most of his life, and where his son also lived, and so on. And today it is shown only to people working at Louis Vuitton, coming from all over the world, because it's the cradle of Louis Vuitton, as I said. Also sometimes for very exclusive event, and luckily we were welcome there. So if you study in Grenoble, you may have the chance to visit that next year. In 2021, LVMH is the world's leading luxury goods company with 75 maisons, as I said. And what is very interesting is that there is a mix of historic companies and new brands. Okay? So here, I'm going to show you some of the brands. They are classified by date. For example, Le Clos de Lambray is a champagne house, and it is the oldest from LVMH Group. It dates back from the 14th century. Then you have the Chateau d'Yquem, which is an iconic wine. It dates back from 16th century. Then you have Ruinart, Moet, Chandon, Hennessy, Veuve Clicquot, 18th century, and so on and so forth. So all of their maisons have their own history before they join at some point LVMH. For example, you can see Tiffany & Co. Tiffany & Co. was created in 1837, but it was bought by LVMH. I guess you heard about that. LVMH bought Tiffany & Co. and the acquisition was finalized in January 2021. Okay. You also have Bulgari, an Italian company that was bought in 2011. You have Rimowa that was bought in 2017, and so on. In the 20th century, they have more recent houses. Loro Piana, for example, also is part of LVMH. Fendi, you may have heard about Fendi. Christian Dior Couture. Here on the left, on the picture, you can see some outfit with the famous bar jacket from Christian Dior. And this is a window display from the newly opened 30 Avenue Montaigne Christian Dior store. So during our study trip to Paris, we also had a chance to go to this 30 Avenue Montaigne store, and where you can see lots of iconic models, but also all the universe of Christian Dior with a cafe and sort of garden around it with flowers. You have all the elements of the DNA of Christian Dior couture. On this photo, you have a photo of Le Bon Marché. Le Bon Marché is a department store in Paris that is part of the selective retailing business activities. If you remember, I told you there are 5 business activities, and selective retailing includes Le Bon Marché, Sephora, DFS, which stands for Duty Free Shop. Okay, all duty-free shop in the world belong to LVMH in the selective distribution activity. And since last year, so May 2021, they opened La Samaritaine, which was under work for 20 years and has been completely refurbished and reopened last year. This is also a photo I took at the 30 Avenue Montaigne, Christian Dior, as you can see. So it looks like an apartment, and you have all the nightgown, well, the dresses are very formal dresses for cocktails or parties. As far business groups revenue are concerned, so LVMH also has, well, the major part of revenues come from fashion and leather goods, 48%, something quite similar as for Hermes. But within the fashion and leather goods, they have some really top sellers, which are Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior. Okay, they are really among the top sellers. Then you have watches and jewelry, selective retailings. So as I mentioned, selective retailings, you have Sephora, you have Le Bon Marché, you have DFS, and then you have wines and spirits, and perfumes and cosmetics. So once again, you could see the improvement of revenue, but not just improvement. I would say the amazing increase by 44%, and even more important, the group share of net profit. So the profit of LVMH has really jumped from 4.7 billion euros to 12 billion euros. Now, if we take a look at the business model and the strategic drivers for LVMH, we can here see six elements. At least I have chosen to develop 6 elements. First, the decentralized organization. So even if the group encompasses 75 maisons, they are autonomous and responsive, which is quite interesting, meaning that they can have their own communication direction, I would say. They also can decide how they want to show the products in stores, etc. So they can be very independent. So if you go, for example, in the streets of Paris, you may see Christian Dior, Louis Vuitton, Fendi, and different houses, and some people don't even know it belongs to the same group. They also put first focus on the organic growth, even though they are very active in mergers and acquisition. So I mentioned the latest acquisition, which is the acquisition of Tiffany, which was the biggest acquisition ever, more than 14 billion euros acquisition. Okay, so when they found an emblematic brand with a very strong heritage, they will be trying to buy it to add it to the already existing maison. So, and the objective is always to develop the different houses, to encourage and protect creativity. As for Hermes, they follow vertical integration. Okay, so to ensure the control of the value chain from sourcing to production and selective distribution. The difference with Hermes is that because they have 75 maisons, they try to create synergies. So they share resources on a group scale. For example, they have support functions, finance, HR, communication that will be used among the different maisons, and to, of course, save some some costs, as they will use the same people and they are going to work for different maisons. They are also trying to stay in the savoir-faire, so not only to develop it, but also to transmit it. And last but not least, as for Hermes, they have a very good balance between business segments and across geographies. So the group is well positioned to withstand the impact of shifting factors. For example, during COVID, they also witnessed a decrease in their revenues, but right after it jumped again. So if we look at this horizontal presentation, we have also from sourcing, production, distribution, creativity, innovation, and HR policies. So same thing, vertically integrated to control the quality of each maison's brand image. Production quality is always the most important, with close attention to detail. Distribution, 5,000, more than 5,000 stores at worldwide level in 80 countries, and online presence for most of their maisons. Creativity and innovation is a key part of LVMH DNA, and they are continuously renewing their offer, looking to the future while respecting the brand's heritage. And last but not least, they also try to encourage an entrepreneurial spirit with strong ethics and CSR, always promoting craftsmanship. And they have what they call a talent factory, which means it's a pool where you can be identified. And for example, if one day you join LVMH in one of the maisons, let's say you start with Christian Dior couture, you can spend a couple of years in the ready-to-wear, for example, division, and then at some point you can move to Christian Dior Parfum, or you can move to a champagne house, or you can move to a jewelry house, because this is highly encouraged within the group as soon as you are identified as someone who can become a manager with leadership skills and so on. So it's quite interesting because you could spend your whole, I would say, a professional life within the group, working for different maisons at different positions and even in different countries. So let's conclude now. So the key takeaways on Hermes: it's a French model of craftsmanship that is sustainable and creates value. A family-run houses which remains independent. That's absolutely key. Hermès is independent. Hermès doesn't belong to any group, with a unique heritage. I mentioned these words. I said it's very important. What type of heritage? Creative heritage, savoir-faire heritage, materials heritage, and retail heritage. Okay, so meaning that in all of the different elements of the value chain, they they focus it on their heritage, whether from the timeless models they are still I would say revisiting, whether from the craftsmanship and the savoir-faire they are transmitting from generation to generation, whether from preserving noble materials and securing supplies, and at the end of the chain by using their exclusive stores with both an artistic and poetic, I would say, spirit, among which what I showed you regarding window displays. So Hermès could be maybe summarized by two words: Hermès, well, savoir-faire. As far as LVMH is concerned, it's also a family-run company. It is still led by Bernard Arnault, so since the creation of the group. They strive to ensure the long-term development of all of their 75, of each of their 75 houses, but for each one keeping their identity, their heritage, and expertise. And important, it's the only group present in the 5 major sectors of the luxury market. So I said that for Hermès, maybe the keywords are savoir-faire. For LVMH, I can say it's more art de vivre. So to quote Bernard Arnault, all of the group's creations make LVMH houses ambassadors of a distinctively refined art de vivre, French art de vivre, among others. Thank you very much. So don't hesitate to follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram. And if you have any question, I will be happy to answer them.
The 75 maisons are under companies that sell under LVMH? That's the question from Moore.
The 75 maisons, as I said, they are autonomous. So if you buy champagne from Wet & See, you will buy from Wet & See, but Wet & See is part of LVMH. So some people don't know it's part of LVMH, some do, but when you go to these different maisons, they look independent. So they are what we call consolidated within the group. They are part of the group, but they are run independently and autonomously. I don't know if it answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.